Hi, good afternoon, everybody. You are very welcome to the UCD Smurfit School Executive MBA webinar today. Thank you all very much for joining. We're just going to give people a moment just to make sure that everybody joins before we kick off, and we'll be with you very shortly. Okay, so I think we have everybody on board now. As I said, you're all very, very welcome. My name is Edel O'Leary. I'm the Senior Manager of the MBA programs here at UCD Smurfit School. I'm joined today by a number of my colleagues, and I'm actually going to use the agenda just to introduce everyone very briefly, and we'll kick off from there. So, firstly, Edel O'Leary is my name. And I am the person who runs both programs here at UCD Smurfit School, both the full-time MBA and the executive MBA. So just to remind you, today's webinar is exclusively about the executive MBA. But of course, if anybody's interested in speaking to us about the full-time MBA, you can contact myself or my colleague Mairead Mulvey from admissions, who will be speaking to you at the end of today's session. No issue at all, but we are dedicating this one to the executive MBA. I'm also joined by our academic director, Professor Kieran Heavey, and Kieran is going to speak to us today just generally about the executive MBA and what you can expect are the key principles, the learnings, and the outcomes for the executive MBA. And then, very importantly, we're joined by a number of panelists today. We have three current year two students for you to hear from, and one executive MBA who graduated just last year. So that will be a great session. And that is going to be hosted by Johnny Benner, who is part of our teaching staff on the executive MBA. And Johnny has been teaching with us actually for as long as the executive MBA modular program exists. And we look forward to hearing from him later. Then I'll jump back in then at that point, and I will host a chat with the panelists in terms of your questions. So just to let you know, today's session is being recorded, and you can actually submit questions to the panelists using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So not the chat function, but the Q&A function. And what we'll do then is, given hopefully we'll have time, we'll put your questions to the panel, and they'll be happy to answer those questions for you. And at the very end of the session, with no pressure to wrap the whole thing up, will be our admissions manager, Mairead Mulvey. And Mairead will speak to us just about what's involved in applying for the executive MBA, what are the criteria, and how the process works. Okay, so without further ado, Kieran, I'm going to pass over to you to take us through why undertake an MBA, Kieran. A great question to start with.
It certainly is, Edel. Thank you very much, Edel, and thanks to all our panelists for joining us today. And most of all, thanks to everyone in the audience for joining us today and your interest in the Executive MBA at the Smurfit School. To answer the question that Edel has raised, I think there's two fundamental reasons why people do an MBA. Number one, they wish to elevate their position within their own organization. They see perhaps an opportunity to grow either within an existing role or through promotion. And they may feel that they don't have the confidence or the full skill set in order to move up the hierarchy or move into new positions. And I think our MBA provides a great grounding for that promotion process. And the reason it does this is it equips you with the confidence, with the competencies, and with the communication skills to be able to elevate yourself within the organization, to be able to see within your organization what are the major issues, strategic and organizational, and how to begin to solve those. It also prepares you to have conversations with senior leaders and to talk in their language. I think the second fundamental reason why participants will undertake an MBA is because they want to actually get out of their organization, their sector, or indeed their career and want to move into a new area. We have a lot of participants, for example, who have worked maybe in accountancy or in engineering and would like to explore consulting, for example, as a career choice. And what's great about our program is that although we have a great curriculum that I'll talk about momentarily, we also place a huge emphasis on leadership and career development. We have what is called the Leadership and Employability Advancement Program, which is a framework underpinned by a set of competencies that will help you to make those transitions. And I think it's fair to say that in recent years, we've had a lot of success in terms of participants both moving up the hierarchy, getting promoted, but also moving into new sectors and new careers. I think the thing about an MBA is that it is, and just to go back for one moment, Adele, it is a globally recognized qualification. There are lots of degrees and programs that will come and go. The MBA has been around for over 100 years. It is globally recognized. I also think the Smurfit MBA has a solid pedigree, both in the Irish but also in international markets, because we've been doing it for 61 years, since 1964. As I've mentioned, it's a passport to a career change. And I really think the third point on this slide, unlocking your leadership potential, giving you the competence, but also giving you the confidence in order to move forward in your career. So we'll move on to the next slide. I think UCD is a great place to study for lots of reasons. We are ranked very highly in the rankings, and these are important indicators of how our participants view us, but also how they do in the marketplace, in the job market. We're ranked by both the Financial Times and the QS World University Rankings. But more than that, UCD and the Smurfit School, because we've been doing this for so long, are a member of a number of elite partnerships, most notably the GNAM network, the Global Network for Advanced Management. And Adele's going to talk a little bit more about this later on, where you have the opportunity to partake in some of these GNAM activities and classes. So I think moving on to the curriculum, it's important to say that I think there are a number of key components here. Number one, academic excellence. The people who are going to be in front of you are experts in their field, thought leaders, but also faculty who have a lot of practical experience. One of those, for example, is Johnny Benner, who's going to be speaking to you momentarily. Both a thought leader and a practice leader in the area of human resources. So we vet the faculty very carefully so that you get a great experience. It's also important to say that the curriculum has a global outlook. We're not just looking at the world from a domestic or narrow perspective. We're looking at it from a global perspective, which is increasingly required in a world of tariffs and geopolitical uncertainty. Second point is what really differentiates us in Smurfit are our teaching methods. We have refined these over the course of 60 years, and we continue to innovate. One of the methods we use quite a lot is the case method, where instead of going into a classroom and being lectured at, you actually participate in the learning experience by solving problems in real time. The typical class will have 35 to 45 people in it, and you will have 35 to 45 different ideas and different solutions. I call it a marketplace of ideas. And that prepares you for your own organization and for your career, where you're going to have to be able to defend your own ideas, to develop those ideas, but also to defend them. So we put you in a lot of real life situations, and you get to learn not only from the instructor, but from your peers as well. And of course, it's not just the case method. We use simulations, we use guest speakers, we use a variety of debates and role plays. It's a very, very rich and fertile learning experience. And then I think the third pillar is the global aspect. Is the fact that you can participate in this global network of advanced management, the fact that you can participate in a week abroad, either through doing business in international markets or an international consulting project. And finally, you get to pull the entire experience and consolidate the entire experience using a capstone project where you will work on a real world problem faced by a client, and you're going to have to develop a report and present a set of recommendations. And then finally, I think the fourth pillar that really makes Smurfit unique is the leadership development aspect. That is something we really sharpened over the last 3 to 4 years. You will participate, as I mentioned, in this leadership and employability advancement program that will provide a full suite of competencies from negotiation to persuasion to executive impact to prepare you both to elevate in your existing career or indeed to move into a new career. And I think the outcomes speak for themselves. We have it here on the slide briefly. I won't dwell too much on this, but our participants have done very well in recent years, with a 57% increase in salary over 3 years after graduation. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, but our participants have found themselves ready to take on bigger and more complex roles and to solve more complex problems in their organizations. So I think that at a high level is an overview of the MBA program. We might move towards the next slide, Edel,
Yeah.
and you might take from here.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Kieran. Yeah, as you said, that is the helicopter view of the executive MBA. And just to get into a little more detail, because I know it's a question that people often like to ask, and you can certainly put some of your questions to the panel later also, is how does it actually work? So who is it suitable for? So we find that the executive MBA is suitable for independent learners. It is recommended for senior professionals nationwide. So a number of people coming to us from all different parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and indeed from overseas, where people fly in to actually undertake the MBA at UCD Smurfit School. It is a 2-year program, and the average age of the class is approximately 37 years of age. And everyone at this current juncture in year 1 has 11 years work experience. So how we actually run the executive MBA at Smurfit School is quite unique. We agree all dates 2 years in advance, and those dates are currently on the website. We never change those dates. So the modules, if I give you a typical module, what will happen is you will have your first half day in a module in what we call a block weekend. A block weekend happens at the beginning of every trimester, and you will then have 4 subjects in a block weekend. You will then go away, come back a month later, and you will start one of those modules. So if I take, for example, Johnny's module, which is HR strategy, you would do a half-day block with Johnny as part of your block format. Then you will do a half-day online with Johnny, and then you will come to us for Friday and Saturday. And so it repeats over the 2 years. Now, there is some travel options, which I'm going to go through with you later, and we do ask that you travel with us at least once. But generally speaking, that is the format we follow, and all dates are agreed in advance. Every module is about approximately 24 hours face-to-face teaching time over those 4 interventions that I've just explained. And in terms of student effort hours, there's about 100 hours of additional learning required on your own behalf to support each module. Now, we work in teams, so there's a lot of group work. And as such, then there can be a sharing of responsibilities in terms of who takes the lead on certain things within a module, in terms of assignments or papers that need to be submitted. So it's very much a team-based activity. All right, now I'm going to move on to some of those challenging experiences that Kieran was speaking to earlier in his presentation. As I said, we're part of the GNAM network, which is a connection of 32 leading business schools around the world. And schools are located in diverse regions with diverse countries, cultures, and economies. And what we do is we lever each other's skills. So we foster connections and share perspectives on solutions to complex and societal challenges. So for us, for example, here in UCD Smurfit School, we run two GNAM programs over the course of the year. And we are very much recognized for those GNAM programs, which actually is happening next week. And one is on the agri-food business, for example, and people come to us from all over the world to take that 1 week module with us. Our students can take advantage of two opportunities with the GNAM network, and one of which is actually very interesting. It's called a short network online course. And those are online programs that are run throughout the year and happen in a format of about 11 to 12 weeks, whereby you pick which program you would like to work with your international business school, and then you attend it online. So it's very easy to fit into your working schedule. It could be in the evening time, for example, if you're taking one in China, or indeed early morning if you're taking one in South America, or indeed in the United States. And what they do then is they meet weekly, and it's almost like taking a module here at the university. It's a great way of meeting new people, making new connections, and understanding a topic which you previously may not have had an opportunity to study. So those are called short network online courses, and you can take up to two of those during your executive MBA program here with us at Smurfit School. In addition, we also offer students the opportunity to travel overseas as part of the program. The first one that will come to you in year one is the International Consulting Project. That happens in the May timeframe in year one. It is an option module. I'll explain to you what the other option module is now at the moment. But this one is quite unique. It's an international consulting project. You work with a company in an overseas location on a real live business problem, again, in your team. And last year, the module was held in Lisbon. And there's a photo there actually of some classmates of the panelists coming up when they worked in Lisbon in the year previous. And you prepare in advance with your module coordinator, who in this case is Professor Karan Sampar. And you make contact with your client before you go. And it's an opportunity really to draw together all of the learnings you've had on the program in year one. And then you get live feedback from other professors who travel with Karan, including our Associate Dean, Frederica Patsalia, and with Professor Pat Gibbons. And it's a fantastic experience to be away, to do something very, very different from what you're doing in your day job. And at the end of the program, we have about a day to have a good bit of fun and actually to have some very serious bonding with your classmates. So it's always a great one to do. The second opportunity that we have for international exposure is a overseas module doing business in international markets. So this one then conversely is very different. It is about meeting senior executives in companies in an overseas location to understand the geopolitical situation, the cultural contexts, the business challenges that exist this year. And those photos are from a trip to Singapore, where we met with a broad range of businesses and executives to really get our head around the ASEAN market. And again, that is an opportunity that arises in year two of your program, and it's an option. So we do ask you to consider traveling once with us, either in year one or year two, or indeed to undertake your GNAM week abroad, if at all possible. Because as Kieran said, a global perspective is something that's very important to UCD Smurfit School, and developing the competence to be able to deal globally and internationally, we believe is crucially important to the development of our executive MBAs. Okay, so at this point of the session, I'm going to hand over now to Johnny, and he's going to host your panel and introduce you to all of your panelists. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks very much, Adele, and thanks, Kieran. I know you call me a thought leader. I'm imagining my kids have a slightly different view about me, and they certainly think I know nothing. But anyway, a little. So you're all very welcome, and we'll talk to our panelists now in a moment. But maybe just a little bit about me. So I'm a senior HR practitioner, almost 30 years now working in industry across high tech and financial services sectors. And 20 of those have been in management roles. So since 1994, my first job actually was lecturing, but I've continued to lecture at undergraduate, postgraduate, and at MBA level. In 2019, I decided to move into work for myself to do more lecturing and consulting. Probably wasn't the best time in advance of COVID to start working for yourself, but actually it's worked out very, very well. And I've the kind of privilege, and I don't say that lightly, of teaching on the EMBA program. And we talk about it being lecturing. For me, it's not lecturing on the MBA program. You are facilitating the sharing of knowledge. And certainly the days that I teach in this, I find them incredibly rewarding. So today's discussion, I suppose, it's about growth and transformation. Really want to kind of find out from our panelists how they've managed to do the MBA, the EMBA, alongside working and family responsibilities, and how that shaped and impacted their careers to date. Obviously, a little bit of time restriction, so I won't be asking every question apart from introductions to all of the panelists. But really, what I want to do is give you online a good flavor of the program and the possibilities that the program opens. So, Sinead, Aveen, Owen, and David, maybe I'll start and ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself. Let us know what stage you are at your EMBA journey, the role you're currently in, and I know for all of you, certainly within the last year or so, you've all moved roles, the role that you were previously in. So maybe I'll start with you, Sinead, if that's okay.
Yep. Thanks, Johnny. And hello, everyone. So my name's Sinead. I'm based down here in Cork. I am almost at the finish line of my EMBA journey. I think our very last item to submit is our capstone project. But I suppose I recently moved jobs. So when I started the MBA, I was a senior manager in Pfizer's digital manufacturing organization. I led a lot of the COVID manufacturing intelligence products that we had there, which really, I would say, kind of accelerated my career. And then during the MBA, an opportunity came up in EY in the AI consulting space, and I'm now the Director of AI Consulting for Pharmaceutical Digital Manufacturing.
Thanks so much, Sinead. And maybe I'll turn to you, David.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? David McKnight is my name, father of 3 small kids. I completed my MBA last year, so I'm alumni class of 2024, which is great to say. It's brilliant being back here, actually. I went back to Smurfit a few weeks ago for an event, and it was actually great to get back on campus again, and it kind of reinvigorates you a huge amount in terms of memories of the lessons and that kind of stuff. So it's great. I'm getting that same feeling now. I joined the MBA as working in the public sector. I was an army officer for 20-something years, and I joined with the view to changing careers. And I've just recently this year started a role with AWS, with Amazon Web Services, as a logistics regional logistics manager, or it's a manager of manager roles. So it's a great pleasure to be here, Johnny, and very fond memories of your class.
Oh, that's I wanted to hear that. We'll have a lot of questions on my class, don't worry. I'll turn to you now, Aileen. Maybe you could give us a summary for yourself.
Hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Aileen. I, like Sinead, I'm in the second year MBA class, executive MBA class. And also, like Sinead, I'm currently working on our final capstone submission. So it's flat out at the moment, even though lectures have finished. The really kind of July deadline is looming. I suppose a bit of background about me: I did an undergraduate degree in Queen's in Belfast, and I studied actuarial science and risk management. I'm a qualified actuary. I've worked, I suppose, for many years in life insurance and consulting, and currently I am a manager in Deloitte in their actuarial practice. Funny enough, today is actually my 1 year anniversary. Previously, I worked in companies such as FNZ and Irish Life in more traditional actuarial roles, but now I'm in the consulting space. So really looking forward to sharing how the MBA journey has impacted me.
Thanks so much, Aoibhinn. And last but certainly not least, Owen, maybe you'll give us a summary.
Sure. Thanks, Johnny. So, hi everyone. My name is Owen Murray. I'm currently in year 2 as well, just finishing up the EMBA. At the moment, right now, I'm head of R&D at a company called 3A Composites, which is a Swiss multinational that develops and produces high quality polymer materials really for a broad range of different sectors: construction, architecture, industry, things like that. In terms of my background is in chemistry, specifically analytical chemistry, product development. And prior to doing the MBA, I completed an industry-based PhD with a chemistry company I was with for a number of years. We spun out a company from that work, and that's where I have been during the course of the MBA and about a year before as well, leading R&D, the technology function, and working on the commercialization of that instrumentation. And only recently now I've accepted this new role with 3A Composites. That's a bit about myself.
Thanks so much, Owen. So kind of moving on, I think, when I think of undergraduates and postgraduates, all too often I see, people, and we fall into academic courses as the next stage, and we don't really think about that too much. But I think when I look at EMBA students, I get a real sense that it's a much more thoughtful and a personal decision. And if I maybe turn to you, Sinead, I suppose it'd be lovely to know, what was the key driver for you to choose to decide to do the program, and why this program over other programs that are out there?
Yeah. So I suppose my initial reason for joining was twofold, I guess. Primarily, it was I had studied computer and electronic engineering in college in NUIG, which was very technical. It was all hardware, software. And I very quickly found in my professional journey that I fell into kind of a management sort of a role. So project management, Scrum Master, managing technical projects. And I guess through 7 or 8 years of doing that, I realized, what I could do with some actual teachings in the kind of business space rather than the hardcore engineering academia that I'd had previously. So that was one of the reasons. So I did always kind of have an MBA on my mind. The second reason, which was more of a small reason when I first joined, but became kind of a much larger piece throughout my journey, was that work had gotten a little bit stale. I'd gotten just a little bit complacent or bored in what I was doing, and I figured, okay, let's have a look around and see what I can do to, I don't know, make myself busier. I live to regret, but yeah. And then when I started looking around, Smurfit was kind of the standout MBA on offer, and the EMBA, especially with the 2 days a month structure, that just suited me. So I went for it, and thankfully got it.
Right. That's it's really interesting. And the other thing that always strikes me, and I stand and look in front of classes, and I'm aware that the course is designed for working professionals. And I know it is a major commitment for anyone to undertake that. And I'm in awe of students who do that. But when I do look around the class and I wonder, how do people balance work, academic, and family life? It's a question I always have, but they do. And they seem in the class to do this seamlessly. Maybe, David, if I turn to you, because you completed the program at this stage. So maybe you could kind of just touch on, how did you manage to manage your time during the program?
Thanks, Johnny, for a great question. It is a great question. If I ask my wife to answer the question, we probably have a different output. But I'll do my best to paraphrase her words and put them into more suitable. I'm only joking, no, to a certain degree. So for me, it was a big decision. I had 3 small kids, and I got to a point in my career where I just needed to go external to develop. I think a lot of people can relate to that. That like Sinead said a second ago. You certainly get to a point, and you need to just step outside, get a different view on things, get a different approach. So I decided that I'd probably move on from the Defence Forces at some stage. I probably envisaged that being a lot earlier than after 20 years service, but it just kept giving me good reasons to stay. So in a lot of ways, the kids came along, and then I realized I still had this, yearning to do something to improve myself, to go outside of my comfort zone and to learn. So they say if you want someone to do something, give it to someone busy. And I think I had a different journey on my MBA to some other people, and we kind of had those with kids and those without kids group, and it worked very well with the team approach. People understood that I only have half an hour, so we had a half an hour conversation, whereas some other evenings I might have had 2 hours. We had a 2 hour long conversation. So I think the team got you through it, the network, the people on the course. There was this kind of shared understanding that time is precious, that there's certain efficiency there. And then you kind of learn to do a huge amount of work in a short time. Some of the resources people gave during the course, like PDF to voice readers, you could listen on your commute to work. These small little tricks that the class came up with to deal with time management kind of compounded your ability to get involved and to succeed. And then in other ways, you might have a trusted team. You could share a workload with them. You might be able to be efficient with your workload in that way as well. So there's a few tricks that you kind of came at it with. There was a few tricks that you learned on during the course as well that really helped balancing work and life. And then obviously the fact that it's only 2 days a month in person really made a huge difference at home, that you had those few weeks to spend with the family.
Yeah, and I'll talk about networking later because that's something that really interests me, and I love to see the networks that develop within the class and work so well. But if I'll turn to you, Aoibhinn, now, and I'm kind of thinking around. I know all of you, excuse me, have, as I said earlier, moved career within the last year and a month. I suppose, Aoibhinn, if I asked you, the new responsibilities or challenges that have come with your new role, how did the EMBA program prepare you for those challenges?
Yeah, so I suppose going back to whenever I was considering the job move initially, I reached out to Bernie in UCD, and Bernie works across all of the MBA classes in terms of careers, a wealth of information. And I had an initial chat with Bernie because I said, look, I've been in this role for 6 years. Where should I go to next? I really hadn't planned on moving during the MBA, which a lot of people say, and it's really interesting because I'd say over half of our class have moved role within the first year of the MBA. So I had a chat with Bernie, and she said, maybe you'd be a good fit for consulting. So I took the advice that I was given, applied for a job directly in Deloitte, got a little bit of interview help with Bernie, and that's kind of what happened in the lead up to myself getting the role this time last year. And I suppose to answer your question, the emphasis on real world case studies really helps your ability to analyze, I suppose, complex problems that are thrown at you in your new role. Maybe something that would have taken a week previously it's a lot quicker now. You think back on the teachings, I suppose you can come up quite quickly with more actionable solutions, and that has been critical in my new advisory role. I think not only what you learn in the class and the case studies, it's from the people in the class themselves. Like it's just the makeup of our class is unbelievable, and I think that's really what adds to the overall experience in UCD is the caliber of people in the class. I suppose in terms of the way the MBA is built, it does take a lot of time and attention, but it is structured in such a way that life can go on, as David said, in the background.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's so you say having a brilliant class, but I think this is my 4th or 5th year teaching on the program. But for me, every class, I mean, they all have different dynamics, but they all work and network together so well.
Yeah, no, you're so right. Like, I mean, the mixture of people in the class is mad, and it's not something that you would get in an undergraduate degree because everybody's
Yeah,
kind of on the same path and working towards the same thing. Whereas on the MBA, like you could be, on your right hand side, you could have somebody that's in the army, and on your left hand side, you could have somebody that was looking at aircrafts in Toronto
yeah,
yesterday. Do you know, like
yeah,
it's so mixed, and that's the fantastic thing about the
yeah.
experience, I think. Yeah.
Thanks. And I might turn to you, and you certainly get a sense that you're moving in roles. So you move from kind of management to really kind of leadership type roles, and that requires a change in the way that you think and becoming much more strategic in your thinking. Um, how did the program help you to become, I suppose, more strategic in your approach to the business problems you experience in your role?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. And it's at the strategic level now. I mean, when we spun out the business, the reason why I decided to pursue the MBA recently was um, where we were trying to commercialize and scale our spin out at the time. Um, I was handling a lot of those business questions, market entry strategy, and so on. But now in this new role, much bigger, much more complex, many companies all over Europe, all over the world actually, within the organization. How do you deal with the variance in culture? The people side of it is a big challenge, of course, as you know. So all of the tools and frameworks that we covered within the program come into play. Um,
Yeah,
the competitive strategy piece is how do we win against competitors and so on. But for me, the people side has been really valuable. The HR
yeah,
module, of course, organizational behavior, and there's been another module leading the innovative enterprise. For me, was hugely valuable in
yeah.
terms of all of those frameworks and how do we execute on projects and so on. So yeah, lots of huge value for me personally.
Sure. Thank you. And it's funny because all of you, and I see this, so as Adele was saying, you start with a half day, then you have a half day online, and then the 2 days together. And you see, as I say, networking, but also a real confidence in the participants on the program. And it's not an overconfidence, it's not a bluster. Um, I'm maybe if I kind of talk, go back maybe to, I think maybe who I'll go to, David again. If I thinking about confidence, how did the MBA program, I suppose, impact your confidence? Because you've gone to a new role, but you've really changed industry. And I imagine that transition isn't easy because you'd gone from a totally different environment into the private sector. So how did your confidence change as a result of the course?
Thanks, Johnny. I think that's a really great question and leading question as well to answer at this forum, because I, I think what's great about the EMBA is that it gives you the confidence in your own skills. It
Mhm.
exposes you to peers that are operating and working at the same level as you are, high
Yeah,
achievers in their own fields. And you realize, oh, they're just like me. Everyone's just like me. They all have their strong points and they all have their weak points. They're really good at this and they really want to learn in this space. And you realize that, like, not to go back to the network again, but as a big network, every project team you're on, you know, there's nobody has all the answers. It's very much everybody is involved, and I think that learning, that the exposure to those high performing teams, and then the realization that that your input matters
mhm,
in that space, and then the recognition back from the school saying that you're achieving, that really kind of does wonders for your self
yeah,
confidence. Uh, in skills you maybe already had or skills that you developed during the course. And what I really like, say for example, I'd very limited, say, financial uh,
mhm,
background. So for me, the financial, I suppose, aspects of the course were real huge learning. Uh, but now, when it comes to something, say, for example, here we're talking about a capex or an opex or a balance sheet, or you're talking about a share price or blah blah blah. It's really simple. It's just
mhm,
it's in my lingo now. I understand that aspect of the business, and suddenly I can relate, say, for example, an operational saving the correct location in the financial sheet. And for me, that kind of confidence is compounding. And as you step forward, you're stepping more and more forward. And one thing I'd finally like to say is just on the presentation side of things as well, I think you take a huge leap during your MBA program due to the programs that are in place there, you know, just in terms of the positive reinforcement and feedback and the go-to mechanisms that you have when it comes to presenting. And I've myself just in recent weeks have received excellent feedback on a presentation that I thought was, you know, adequate. And I would 100% put that down to the mechanisms that I learned during my time in Smurfit.
Yeah. And I suppose if I open up to our panelists, I suppose, has anyone else noticed a change in the way maybe they're perceived in their organization that you might attribute to the skill sets and the competencies you learned on the program?
I can take that one, Johnny. Yeah. So I think in terms of moving job in particular, like it's a huge talking point for any job interview. It's kind of you come across in somebody that wants to progress themselves. You know, you did an undergrad many years ago. A lot of people at that point just say, look, I am done with education. I'm done with any further learning. And it kind of shows a real want to progress. And certainly into that, then you have the learnings like strategy, organizational behavior, and negotiation. They all feature in the job interview process and recruitment process. And I suppose it is a big decision. You know, the grass isn't always greener moving to a new role, but in terms of your confidence piece there, like it does give you the confidence to say, look, I think I can make a jump. Whereas maybe, you know, if you hadn't done this course, you might say, no, maybe, you know, I don't think I'm maybe capable of that, or, you know, you don't have that confidence. So certainly in the confidence space, like it's huge, the MBA.
Right. Yeah. And maybe talk to Owen. What about you and the perception of yourself in your own organization? Has that changed, do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's what David was saying about I think everyone has a healthy dose of imposter syndrome. I think it's fairly common. But being around such high achievers within the cohort, it's there's good validation there, and it's that increases confidence. But also, I think confidence comes from delivery as well. You know, it is challenging. It's a difficult enough journey. And when you deliver and, you know, achieve good results within that environment, that builds confidence as well. You know, outside of coming from a technical background, of course, you have to learn new things, financials, etc. And then when you deliver in that area, you know, it builds confidence. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I'm kind of a separate, but I was talking there about networking, and I'll maybe turn to you, Sinead. And we've touched on this throughout, this idea of the network that you build up as you're doing the program. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that network and the support that your classmates give to you, your peers, you know, within the program? And I certainly, talking to previous years, you know, that network never ends. It just grows and grows, and it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely echo what I think everyone has said, but I think Avian said it as very well, was, you know, you've got every day you go in, you're sitting beside new people, and, you know, everyone is just so good at what they do. It's just absolutely like enlightening to get to speak to these people in completely different industries. Like I would say, and someone said it to me at the start of my MBA journey, and I thought that's very cliche, but actually coming out of it, I fully agree that you learn just as much from your peers sitting beside you as you do the lectures and the actual material being taught to you. Like the opinions and the point of view that people share in the class during the teachings. And Johnny, we probably had your head wrecked in HR with all of the stories and anecdotes that we shared from our careers. But it really was like throughout every module, I would say, the opinions from your classmates and from the network that you develop are just as insightful and interesting as kind of what your lecturer is teaching you. No offense, Johnny. But yeah, and also like the people you meet, I would never personally have had the opportunity of meeting them prior to joining the MBA, and like I can say that through through the MBA. Like I've met mentors. We're actually hoping to start a business based on the entrepreneurship module that we started or that we completed. Yeah, like the people that I've met along the way are just second to none. And yeah.
Thank you. And I'm always amazed, when I see the groups together, you realize we have that problem as well. And the conversations, the sharing of knowledge is just fantastic. If I turn, I suppose, the programs, when I look at it and I'm listening to both Adele and Kieran, it's more than an academic program. There's a leadership and employability advancement program. There's the optional travel modules. I might turn to you again, David, because you're on the other side of having completed it. But were there any parts of the program that really stood out as transformational for you?
That's a great question again, Johnny. And you know what? Would I do it again? I probably would definitely do it again. In fact, if you let me sign up for another 2 years, I'd probably jump in just for the networking side of it alone to meet another group of MBAs. And when it comes to the program, what I found as I suppose working and being a father was that the program really kind of spoke to the whole class group. So, I was unfortunate that I couldn't do some aspects of it because of work commitments and family commitments, but other people did a lot more, and I don't think anyone did everything, but you could definitely pick and choose maybe the parts that shouted out to you, the parts that did. One big memory for me was going to Canada as part of the Molson case competition and representing Smurfit as a team of 4 in an international case competition in my final year of my EMBA. It was a really seminal moment of when you take all your learnings together, you package them into a competition, and you get to present. You get this kind of master class. We got great time with some of the really experienced academics, and it was a really great thing to get involved in. But consequently, then I couldn't get involved in the snacks or in some of the travel, because it just you needed to have that balance. There's enough there in the program for as aspirational as you want to be, or as limited as you can be.
It's nice.
Well, which I thought was.
You can tailor it to your own circumstances and choose those options that are most meaningful and practical to you. And I suppose going to my last kind of question, and maybe I'll turn to you, Aveen. I suppose there's a lot of people listening here today, and they're considering doing the program. What advice might you give to somebody now who's considering the EMBA program about and moving their career to the next level? What advice might you give them?
Yeah, that's a good thought. I suppose it's to be prepared to invest time and effort. It's not like an undergrad where you're learning for an exam. It's all about absorbing what you're getting in the room between the academic teaching and what you're learning from the rest of the class. But I think the opportunities that it presents are so well worth it. I suppose I'm probably a good candidate for a case study, maybe on balancing the demands of the MBA. Since starting the MBA, I got married, moved job, and now I'm expecting a baby very soon. So there's been a lot going on over the last 24 months. But my advice there is probably to make a really deliberate decision on it. Make sure you have a support system at home and in work, because balancing this program, it is demanding, but it is absolutely so rewarding. So that would be my advice probably to anyone looking to take on the executive MBA course.
Thanks so much. And give the last word maybe to you, Owen. Any advice you would give to prospective students?
Look, personally, I love this. For me, it's probably the best thing I've done, especially from a academic perspective. I wouldn't even classify it as academic. From a development perspective, strongly recommend it. Programs, really, really valuable for me, tangibly valuable, which is, I know it's an investment in terms of time, but also financial investment as well, and it's been valuable for me. The network, we spoke at length at that, hugely important and beneficial. And again, similar to what Aveen mentioned, if you're gonna be intentional in terms of know why you're doing it, be ready to invest the time and really get stuck in to get the value, to capture the value during the process. But it's from my side, really, really strongly recommended, and I'm personally delighted I did it.
Great. So Owen, thank you. Aveen, Sinead and David, really appreciate your
Thank you so
insights.
much, guys. Super.
So I'll pass you over to Adele.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I actually have two questions here, which I'm going to put to you because even though we could answer them, it's probably better if they're answered from you. Um, so the first question is from Bryony, and she's asking if the MBA is still beneficial for somebody who already have a business background. So you've possibly done a undergrad in business somewhere along the way, and then is it still beneficial? Would anybody like to take that question from our panel? Does anybody feel they have the right qualifications to answer that question, or should I get Kieran to teach it as he's also, or take it as he's also the academic director of the BCom in UCD? Any of our panel like to take that, or Kieran, you take it?
I mean, I think it's a great question. And I think the reality is that we have, and the panelists have already said it, that they come from a variety of different backgrounds. And, you know, from a business background, I think the value of it is in updating your business knowledge because the world is changing. And we're constantly updating the curriculum. And just responding to another question who asks, you know, is it still relevant if I've done an MBS or an MSc? And I think it is.
Yeah.
For two reasons, because the curriculum is constantly updated as the business world evolves. And secondly, because there's a much more emphasis on the development of executive competencies to prepare for all of the experiences that have been mentioned today.
Yeah, and actually, Kieran, I think the size of the type on the questions in the Q&A box is so small. I think I actually misread what Bryony actually asked. So she actually asked, do you have to have a business background to do the MBA?
No.
So
No.
most definitely not, Bryony. You see there's people on the panel here from a wide variety of backgrounds. But most importantly, yeah, you do not have to have a business background. So great, thank you for that, guys. So there's somebody asking me actually about the Global Network Week scheduled next week covering EMBA candidates or class starting in August. Yeah, so it comes around every year in June. And so you get an opportunity to take it in your second year. So absolutely. I think my colleague Gillian shared a link to the GNAM website itself, and you're looking for the GNAM Week opportunity, and you're looking specifically for the EMBA GNAM Week, and you will see that it always happens about the second week of June. So you can go back, have a look at what's been offered this year, but you can go back by a number of years actually and see what has been offered over the past number of years. And what you'll see then is that certain business schools have developed reputations in certain things. And they tend to actually just have a slightly different take on it and a more up-to-date content, but mostly they stick to their area of expertise. So that's great. Okay, question, who funds the international travel modules, self-funded, approximate costs? Are there many females who have young families opposed to males? Yeah, so we are 50-50 male female in the class, and yes, we have a lot of moms with large families to take care of. In David's year, we had a lady who came to us every month from Galway, and if I'm not mistaken, Deirdre, correct me on this now if I get it wrong, David, I think she had 5 children. And a very, very business orientated lady. She was the head of a legal function for a very large corporate based in Galway. Certainly it is doable. She was highly organized, but it is doable. So the class size on average is about between 37, 38 students per year. When we started the program, we had 42, I think, or 43. Kieran, if you remind me, the first year of the modular format.
45.
45. Yeah. And that's really because we had some pent-up demand in the marketplace. But generally speaking, it's about 37, 38. Try not to go over 40 too often. because class size is important to us. It's important that people get an opportunity to get to know each other, and anything more than 40 is a very large group for travel purposes also. So that's how we tend to run it. If you are interested, I should say, before Mairead starts her small presentation on admissions, which really will only be a couple of minutes, don't worry, we'll have you finished at 2 o'clock, like we said. We are about 75% complete on the executive MBA, so fully complete, except people paid up. We are still speaking with a number of candidates. If you are interested in starting this August, please do contact either myself or Mairead. You'll find us on LinkedIn. And Mairead will give you her direct email address now in a moment when she starts her presentation. But time is of the essence at this stage if you are going to join us in August. Okay, so it's an August kickoff. I think it's 21 August, Mairead.
The 20th of August, yeah.
20th of August, we start Foundation Week, yeah. So kind of you'd need to get in contact with us now over the next 2 weeks for sure. Okay, there are probably more questions there than I am going to get to. So Mairead, will I let you do the admissions piece and I'll jump back on the Q&A box and,
yes, please.
And I'll try and answer some of those questions.
I think some of them are related to admissions actually directly, so I can answer them now. Yeah.
All right. Mairead, at this point, I seem to always struggle as to how to turn back on the slideshow. So are you happy to just speak away there, Mairead?
I'm absolutely happy. Firstly,
go ahead.
I say thank you very much to all our facilitators and our contributors, panelists today. It was an excellent webinar. And I'll tell you what's an indication of that is all the questions have come in at the end, which means that everybody was intently listening over the course of the webinar. I'm conscious not to keep you too long. I'm the admissions manager for the 2 MBA programs. And basically, as Adele explained, this webinar is focused on our executive MBA. So just in terms of the admission process, it's really quite straightforward. You need an undergraduate degree. One of the questions was, does it have to be a business degree? No, it can be in any discipline. In the event that you don't have an undergraduate degree, we also have a process where we can admit you by doing another entrance exam, basically an executive assessment or a GMAT exam, which there has been several questions on there as well this afternoon. So basically an undergraduate degree, you really, for the executive MBA program, you need 7 years minimum professional experience. That's not to include internships or short-term contracts or, casual work. So 7 years experience, an undergraduate degree, 2 recommendation forms, and to fill out our application form online. If you're selected, if you meet the eligibility criteria, you're invited for an interview either with myself or Adele or Kieran or one of the other MBA team members, and then we can process an offer actually quite quickly after that. One of the significant changes in terms of the admissions process over the past couple of years has been the elimination of the necessity to do that entrance exam for our MBA program. So that's the EA or the GMAT. And a lot of people have been asking that in the question box this afternoon. So you no longer need to do that, which obviously is a great advantage to our candidates who are applying, because that does take a lot of preparation to get ready for, essentially, and now you don't need to do that. So just to be clear about that, we are, as Adele said, about 70%. Our class is complete at this stage to about 70%, heading for 75%. If you do wish to apply for this year, I would recommend doing so over the next week or two. The programme starts on the 20th of August, that's a Wednesday. There's 4 foundation days, Wednesday through to Saturday. They're full days and you need to be present for those days. And we understand that can eat into holiday time. The kids are still on holidays, etc. But you need to be aware before you commit to joining the program that you can attend for those days. If it's a case that you don't think you're going to make it this year, but you'd like to inquire for next year,
please reach out to me at any stage. My email address is mairead.mulvey@ucd.ie, and I'd be delighted to have a conversation with you, or if you want to come onto campus and have a coffee and have a tour around and meet the team, we'd be delighted to talk to you then. What I would say is, at this point, the sooner the better. And if it is next year that you're thinking of, please do apply early, because then, you know, you get longer to prepare your schedule and you know what you need to organize in terms of committing to the program. Plus you can get involved in any of the scholarship processes, which are closed at this stage for the incoming class. So that's basically it. I'm conscious of the time, 14:01.
Thanks, Mairead.
Do we have any more questions, Adele, that we can answer?
No, we're going to leave it at that, Mairead. And what we will do is I put your email address into the chat box. I hope you don't mind. So if anybody feels that they haven't had their question answered, if you want to just email Mairead this afternoon, she'll be more than happy to pick up with you. So without further ado, I really want to thank everybody for such a great panel session. David, Aideen, Sinead, Owen, thank you so much for your time. And to Johnny for hosting that. It was really great. Lovely to see you all. And Kieran, thank you so much also. And in the background, I have my marketing colleagues, Kathy, and our full-time MBA manager is also in the background, Gillian, helping to answer questions. So we look forward to hearing from you over the next couple of weeks. As Mairead has said, if you do want to do it this August, please get in contact. And if not, then what you'll notice is actually the website is not going to open up for applications for the following intake until much later in the summer. But please do reach out in the meantime and we'll be happy to speak to you. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.